say it's a fair statement to say most wealthy or rich individuals leverage debt the right way, or do they stay away from it from your experience?
I think most rich people, all of them, leverage debt.
I believe you make up and leverage what you lack in ability.
Oftentimes they're coming to me because they've received a notice that their tax returns haven't been filed.
The IRS is one of those few three-letter entities I'm not a fan of, but you got to deal with them because they can either make or break you. How do you feel about this current administration and when it comes to taxes? Because Trump is real big on industries not paying tax. How does this current administration benefit or affect small business owners right now? All right, what's going on, everybody? It's Mark, Access Capital, Mark.monetize me. And today you guys get a little insight with on my business and somebody else that does business, and our businesses overlap. So I have Prophetess here with us. You all know that I'm in the funding space. So I'm in the business funding space, capital acquisition space. At the end of the day, I sell money. And a big piece of the puzzle that I always run into that's an issue with my B2B clients, finances, tax returns, all the things that stop them from getting to the next level. So I'm gonna ask this experienced tax consultant advisor about what she does and how it plays a role in what I do. So real quick, introduce yourself to the people.
Sure. My name is Prophetess Branchcombe, and I own and operate Sound Profit Tax Solutions.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your ideal client and what problems you solve for when you say tax solutions. Because everybody talks about, I do taxes, I prepare. There's a difference from a preparer and a tax strategist.
Absolutely. So I actually service two pieces of the business. So I work on the tax advisory side, and I
Okay.
also own an arm where we just do financial management. So
Okay.
it's really on our tax side is where we help clients with those things you mentioned on tax compliance.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes they're coming to me because they've received a notice
Mm-hmm.
that their tax returns haven't been filed. And then from there, the next thing they usually say is, I didn't file because my books weren't ready.
Yeah.
And so I step in with my bookkeeping team and we try to get those records up to date for them, making sure that first they're organized. Most
Mm-hmm.
of 9 times out of 10 clients come, they really haven't, set up their profit and loss to where it's structured for their industry. So we help them with that. And our ideal clients are clients who want to improve their process, who want to
Yeah.
stay on top of their books, and are really looking forward to building a strong foundation so that the next phase they can go into is really scaling.
Yeah. Okay. When a client comes to you and does it matter if it's a startup or an existing business? Do you prefer either or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Usually, I see clients who are in a existing business mode
Mm-hmm.
because they've launched the business and realize I need to organize my
Yeah.
books, or they get a thought such as I took in money, but I don't know where all the money went. And
Mm-hmm.
so usually that's a time when people start to ask those questions. I need to work with a bookkeeper. But a well-prepared client is going to institute processes from the moment that they actually start their opening their business bank accounts.
Yeah.
That is the best practices.
That's true.
So
That
you
is
can
so true.
start out with a clean chart of accounts. Your profit and loss
Mm-hmm.
statements are structured where they're readable to you and they're meaningful.
Okay.
So
What do you recommend some tools for clients to use? 'Cause I know I use QuickBooks and there's other ones out there. What do you
yes.
recommend?
For the most part, I see clients, I would say 80 to 90% use QuickBooks Online because
Okay.
it is
Mm-hmm.
extremely, user friendly. They have a lot of new expansions this year with AI based
Yeah.
tools and
Yeah.
such. But I also see small businesses use another tool called Xero, and that's spelled
Oh,
Xero.
XERO. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
another one I see out in the space.
Okay.
Hmm.
I think that one is like they have a free version of it too,
They
right?
do.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. I noticed another thing with a lot of my clients when I'm trying when I'm trying to help them get capital, if they don't have, for me, what's called the data. Banks want to see the data, meaning what you do, the books, the profit and loss, tax returns, because you can only get so much funding or access to so much money without financials. And so when we hit that wall, usually about $50 to $75,000, where you can go stated and not have financials, in your expertise, how important or complicated is someone that didn't have their books together and they're trying to acquire some capital, take out a loan, SBA, or purchase a property? How important or how is that transition when like I said, when they started out not doing it, coming over to you? What does that look like, that handoff?
Yes, those are the clients who are usually hit a dead end, like you said. They're trying to go out and seek funding, and the first thing they're asked for are their financial statements. And people don't often understand that in order for us to create those financial statements, we actually have to go back through all of your transactions to actually put the accurate picture together. And so one of the things that I have to work with them on is understanding the timeline.
Yeah.
There are a lot of steps. It's not an overnight process.
Mm-hmm.
And typically clients will come and they may need 2 years of statements.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it could cause another 6 to 8 week delay depending on how active those books have been. From an accountant standpoint, we not only categorize the transactions, but we need to do what's called the month-end reconciliation, ensuring that there are no additional transactions and things like that in there. Also making sure that assets are properly recorded on the balance sheet. And so again, it's not a simple overnight one click of a button and then you're just, filing away all your categorization. So I see that pretty often, that clients are like, oh my gosh, my loan guy is asking for these documents. What can you create for me? They need them the next day. They need them the next day, and they're like, "What can you create for me?" And it's impossible to do without going through the details. And then also to what I mentioned about having that chart of accounts. So the chart of accounts is really like the roadmap that tells us what are the income and expense categories that relate to your business. So depending on that loan, the loan underwriter may want to see it broken out by certain income streams. And they want to definitely understand how your expenses are being split out, the difference between your cost of goods sold versus versus your overhead expenses. And so all of those pieces of data are critical when it comes to doing the loan underwriting. And so from an accountant standpoint, we need to take that extra time up front to make sure that everything is properly categorized so that you look the most financially healthy, or they have the truest snapshot at that time when they're actually trying to go out and underwrite the loan.
Yeah, because I know I have two clients right now that just got hit with a bunch of requests from US Bank, and they're just like, I don't have this, I don't have that. Me trying to partner or find someone like yourself, have a couple people that I work with now that are able to, help at least start that conversation, or what you just mentioned, reconcile their books and go through that process. But a lot of times, like I said, it's not something that's going to be done in 24 to 48 hours. It might be a week. But I do notice I run into a lot of that. In my industry, you have what's called paper businesses, and then you have businesses that have the data, the financials, the P&Ls and stuff like that. And those usually open up the biggest opportunities for business owners when their books are in line to get access, to anything over 50 to 150,000, or even more than that when it comes to purchasing assets like commercial property or even real estate. What is one of the, I guess...
I was going to say something to that.
Okay, go ahead.
Because a bank they should be looking to see how readily available those financial statements are.
Yeah.
Because at any point in time, once they've given you money, they want to be able to know that you're able to still continue to service the loan, and that you can track it.
Debt service ratio is what they use in the banking industry to see.
Yeah.
For every dollar you want to borrow, you should be making a dollar X, bringing in.
Absolutely.
So they can see how you can cash flow manage and stuff like that. And so a lot of times books or working with a CPA or a tax strategist creates the huge opportunity, or it eliminates the opportunity if they don't have it.
Absolutely. I see oftentimes with my clients who also have debt that I have to make sure that we're always discussing what their runway is, and that we're also discussing in our budgeting conversations about debt repayment, because some of my clients are debt averse, but they need the working capital.
What does that mean, debt averse?
Meaning that they just generally feel like they don't want debt in their books. They don't want to
borrow anything?
They do not want to borrow.
Cash, everything?
Yes. Okay. I see this particularly with my clients that are in service-based businesses. I have a client, she does online education,
Mm-hmm.
and her business goes through, it's a seasonal style business,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously, because of the courses. But when it comes to, she's doing a conference this year, and she needed a lot of capital up front. So we
Mm-hmm.
did go out, secure a loan.
Okay.
But in the back of her mind, she's just like, I cannot sleep knowing that I've, taken on debt in my business. But for her, what we try to do is I try to come up with a more aggressive repayment schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
again, it goes back to that conversation. Some months you can double down on your
Mm-hmm.
payments, but other months you cannot. And then over the, a 6 month or 12-year period of time, if we know that there's going to be a month in month 8
A
that we
slow
can't
month.
cut,
Yeah.
yeah, then you want to not maybe make that double
Mm-hmm.
payment in the beginning. So
So speaking of loans, like I'm real big on leverage. Like I believe you make up in leverage what you lack in ability. But again, debt is not a bad thing if you understand how the debt is being used. Because I'm sure we've heard it, OPM, other people's money.
hmm
Would you say it's a fair statement to say most wealthy or rich individuals leverage debt the right way, or do they stay away from it from your experience?
I think most rich people, all of them, leverage debt.
Okay.
If no, there's no other form of debt, then if they just use credit cards,
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing that there's a higher dependency on looking outside of what traditional credit card
Yeah.
leverage is used for,
Mm-hmm.
because of, like, this year I saw a lot of clients impacted because of the tariffs.
Yeah.
And so their inventory orders were now going up 30%
Mm-hmm.
because of these new
Tariffs.
additional
Yeah.
tariffs, and they're not used to having to pay out that
That
capital
extra
up front.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for those clients, we have gone out, we secured a line of credit.
Mm-hmm.
And so absolutely. But I would say for the most part, any business that's over, 1 million or 2 million in annual sales, they're leveraging some kind of
Some
debt.
type of debt. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good. Because I know, like you said, you have those clients that can't sleep at night because they feel like they have a loan or a debt or line out there. But like you said, working with them, educating them on how the leverage game works and how, using that in your slow months to secure, $100,000 or $200,000 piece of equipment or inventory, then taken away from working liquidity, can make or break, the business if not understood or work with the right, consultant or someone like yourself. So I guess my
Agree.
next question.
I was going to stay on that too with you.
Okay, go ahead.
I've noticed that with those clients who debt adverse, I'll call them,
Mm-hmm.
once I start exploring with them where that debt aversion comes from,
Mm-hmm.
it usually points back to their personal relationship
With
with money.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
oftentimes, one of the things I'm educating them on is like your personal relationship with money is different in
And
your business relationship with
Yeah,
debt.
yeah.
And
I'm
so,
glad you said that. Like,
yeah.
talk about that. Like, because I've had to break down, even in my own journey, my relationship with money and how money was introduced to me. And a lot of time that risk aversion or that challenge or that hurdle stems from a personal relationship with money, something they experience personally. How often do you see that in your business?
Oh, it's 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Because again, when I'm working with clients, they're usually telling me their most intimate issues around the money, right? It's
Yeah.
like they're
Peeling the layers, being
yes,
honest,
yeah,
having to come to
absolutely.
Jesus moment.
Yeah, and then I also remind them too, I know their numbers most of the time better than
Better
they
than they
do.
do. Yeah.
So when I'm getting on the call with them, I'm already, ready to have that discussion in terms of, what does your runway look like? We're
Mhm.
running, low.
Yeah.
And then also too, I work with them a lot on doing sales projections, right?
Okay.
And so in understanding that, but I can tell you that leverage debt is there to be used,
Yeah.
and if your company is taking on expansion, if you're
Mhm.
trying to
Trying to
scale
grow.
your
Mhm.
business, if you have a seasonal business, you need to at least have some type of debt vehicle available when you need it.
Yeah.
The hardest thing for a client is trying to solve for finding capital when there's not enough time, because a loan process takes a long process,
Yeah. Yeah.
longer than most people want to wait. And so I always tell people, like, you don't want to borrow the money when you need it. You want to borrow it,
Borrowing
at
it.
least know we have it readily available for
Hmm.
in those cases where we need it.
Yeah, I tell a number of clients, they be like, "Well, I don't really need $100,000 line." Okay, don't wait till you need the credit to try to go get the credit. Get
Agreed.
it while it's available. Have some discipline. Don't just be like, "Well, I got $100,000 line of credit there. I'm just about to blow through it." No, you only pay on or use what you need.
Absolutely.
But when the time comes or the opportunity comes, you have it to tap into it. So no, I'm glad you spoke on that, and that's I'm surprised. Like you say, like that's a large number of clients that experience that. Okay. Also, in your business, how often are you having clients come back to you? They've been audited or something triggered an audit or something like that. How do you handle something like that?
So I always really educate clients. The IRS puts out there on their website how their audit results are every year.
Hmm.
So the IRS tries to audit about 2% of the tax returns filed. And so I typically see that about 2% of my
Oh, on your
clients
clients,
receive
is that
some
low?
type, yeah, they receive some
Okay.
type of inquiry. And also keep in mind too that an audit today looks much different than it used to, because it used to be where you had to come in, meet with the IRS agent, bring in your receipts. And the way the IRS prefers to do audits nowadays is they actually prefer to tap into your electronic accounting systems. So
Okay.
that is an option that they have available now. Outside of that, I see several clients get what they call correction notices, which
Hmm.
would have fallen under the old category of audit. And it's usually because the tax system has identified either a form that they didn't include, some
Hmm.
kind of income is missing. And usually those letters come in and they tell you, hey, you were missing this income. We've changed your tax return. Here's what we think it is. Now, those feel just like an audit because they never come back and say, we found you more money. It's always
We
like a
found you
request
what
for,
you owe
oh,
us
you
more
owe
money.
us more money. And so
Yeah, man.
I do see a lot more of that just because the IRS is more reliant upon their tax computer
Hmm.
to actually find those
Okay.
missing pieces. Yeah.
How do you feel about this current administration and when it comes to taxes? Because Trump is real big on industries not paying taxes. How does how does this current administration benefit or affect small business owners right now?
Yeah, so with the Trump administration, his first administration really laid the foundation for who he was in the tax space.
Hmm.
Prior to that, there had not been a major overhaul on the tax regulatory system in over 20 years. And
Hmm.
so the process which you have to go through to actually change the tax code is pretty daunting because you have to get, Senate and congressional approval. And so the first time that he was in office, he did do a major overhaul. He made the tax code much more simple for corporations. That
Hmm.
was his main focus,
Yeah.
was simplifying the code for the business and corporations. And so really what we saw in 2018 was that he put into place a lot of permanent tax code on the business side.
Hmm.
And now what we're seeing this year in this new tax bill is those changes for the on the permanent side.
Okay.
I
So it's like a lagging effect then of
um
what he started in 18. We're seeing more so now.
Well, now where his first priority in 18 was definitely to get the corporate tax code,
Hmm.
because he understood that so many major U.S. corporations were taking their business offshore
Yeah.
because
Overseas.
of the tax,
Yeah.
just that tax rate that they were seeing here.
Hmm.
I think for small business owners, you'll see, because small business owners to me kind of fall in the category of how it impacts their personal tax returns, because
Yeah.
they're much more likely to have that income
Schedule
flow.
C or
Yep,
yeah.
those people. So those are really the ones that are going to be seeing a lot of the changes on the personal side this year.
Okay.
So, for example, there is a new code, the new deduction for car loan interest,
Hmm.
which we have never
Never
seen
seen it was
before.
so that's not 179D, right? That's
No,
something
so
else.
no, that's dealing with
Okay.
depreciation.
Depreciation.
But this year, if you actually purchase a car that was assembled in the U.S. and you
Mm.
secure it with an auto loan, you get to write off the loan
Loan
interest the
interest.
same way you get to write off on your house mortgage interest.
Oh, really? That's
So,
good.
it's a deduction for car
Hmm.
loan interest this year. So, it doesn't go on that same Schedule A reporting,
Hmm.
but that is something that we just haven't seen. That did go to replace the expiring credits for the energy efficient fuel credits, those clean vehicle credits. All of that
Oh yeah,
has
that
now
did go away.
sunsetted
Yeah.
as of September 30th. And so
Okay.
he's made those things available. But yeah, overall, I think the other thing that impacts small business owners is on the depreciation, which is what you're alluding to. Now you can do 100%
100% now. Yeah.
depreciation on a lot more
Can you
business expensive.
still take the full that year or spread it out over 5 years?
You can continue to,
Okay.
to opt into spreading it out over 5 years. And I suggest that for clients, really, like if you spent a lot of money in one year paying for like a big piece of equipment and you really haven't started to see those sales come in that year, you want to be able to spread that out so that the following years, when you start to see that income come in, you're able to
still get-
depreciate that to write down some of that net income.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So real quick, give me 3 to 5 immediate things a business owner can start doing themselves to better prepare themselves or understand why working with you or getting in position to work for you would make sense.
I would say the main reason is they're committed to just having stronger books, or they're committed to getting their tax filings up to date. Also, if you are a person that has received notices, for example, I've seen a lot of businesses this year receive notices from the state that they're losing their state active registrations because they're behind on filing with the franchise tax board.
Yeah.
I mean, like those are things you want to address now, particularly if you are an owner of like an LLC, an S corp, in the state of California, and you have not paid that $800. And if you have not filed your tax return, they are spending a lot more energy going out to the Secretary of State and actually suspending those businesses. So you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're not active on the file. So one of the best practices I tell people, go out to the Secretary of State today. It's free to do a business search. Make sure there that you're compliant. Even if you know you're behind on your filings, you still want to go out there and make sure that your account with the Secretary of State is current.
Okay.
And then the other thing that I've been telling business owners now is reach out early. Don't wait until January because you have other filing requirements such as 1099s. And for example, if you haven't done your books and you need to issue 1099s, that really needs to be started this time of the year.
People and other companies,
Absolutely. Those filings are due January 31st. So if it's going to take us 4 weeks to get your books in order, then you still got to make sure you have the W-9s on file in order to get those filings out. So I'm telling people today, just figure out where you are. Even if your books aren't all the way caught up, at least find out if there's any regulatory agencies looking for you. Another one that's very popular right now is that people are receiving notices from their city-state agencies. So most people aren't aware that when you file your state of California business tax return, the city that your personal address is registered on, your business address, the city is also notified that that business filed a tax return. And so I've had a lot of people over the last 2 months reach out and say, hey, the city of has sent me this letter and they're telling me I have a tax bill. And I always remind those clients that if you don't have a business license in your city, you need to get that, because most of the time there's not a requirement to pay taxes at the end of the year. But if you do not report on an annual basis, they will assess a tax. So it's just a matter of knowing what the requirements are from the city, from the state, as well as the federal level.
Yeah, that's good, because I know I got my notice to renew our business license, and you kind of like, what is it when you have to like kind of project, because they bill you based on what you project to make or what you say you're gonna make or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's based off of your anticipated gross income. Your gross sales.
Okay.
Gross sales.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So definitely getting ahead of things early. I'm definitely in agreement to that. Bookkeeping, numbers, and then at the end of the day, I think we both agree on like some type of strategy that they need to lock in with someone like yourself or what we try to help with. So how do people reach you?
Most people just reach out to me via my cell phone, 310-863-3109, or they can also find us on our website, which is soundprofitsolutions.com.
Okay.
And
What about
On my
social media?
social.
Yeah,
So
what's your
I'm on
social?
social. It's just the handle is just at Sound Profits.
At Sound Profits.
Yes.
Okay. And so you have a team that's responding to like DMs or messages and stuff like that? Or
Absolutely.
a booking calendar once they reach out to the website or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
we actually have a client management system that reaches out. So once
Okay.
you let us know what it is, what service you're looking for, we can start the conversation with you in terms of any information. But oftentimes when people are looking for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
usually because they're looking to solve a very
Solve a problem.
sensitive problem. And so I'm always available to have that initial conversation
Mm-hmm.
because I just feel like that there's so much emotion around that notice that it's kind of like I want to know, give them an idea of what to expect,
Yeah.
make sure that they, aren't in a rush and a hurry, or
Mm-hmm.
if they have a tight deadline, that I can really prioritize the work I need to do to get them turned around in enough time. So.
Okay. Well, I know the IRS is one of those few three-letter entities I'm not a fan of, but you got to deal with them because they can either make or break you. I think that's it. So I definitely appreciate you sitting having some candid conversations about business, about strategy, and looking
Thank you.
forward to working with you and collaborating with clients who are both in the space of business owners and trying to solve problems for business owners. So I appreciate you.